Shall we just try a few stretching before we stand up? Just reaching just to get the two sides of the body alternating. And forwards. And then just imagine that line from your dantian through, the one we were grabbing in order to pull in, and just grab it front and back. So one fist holding onto your dantian and the other to your Ming Men. The focus in these 2 points allows the rest of your energy to expand and open up. Let's start the way we finish the sitting. So with the fist front and back. Maybe I'll swap mine round. My legs are holding me up, but they need to be relaxing so that what's beneath my fist at the back can extend downwards. Chen Wei-Ming talks about the straight coccyx, this feeling that your tail is extending out of its bunched up normal state, loosening and extending downwards. And then the top of the upper spine, your neck and into your cranium can reach upwards. Then bringing the arms up. Feel your shoulders as though dropping down into the hips. So really stacking down. So that's heavy elbows. The heavy elbows are dragging down your shoulders. And then allow the legs to relax enough so that you really feel the connection between the soles of your feet and the hips. What John used to call penguin Tai Chi, almost like your legs have disappeared. And they're very dependent on each other. So unless your legs relax enough to allow your hips to relax, then your shoulders won't relax either. Keep that feeling of your tail trying to extend down into the ground. That Dalai Lama quote, you can think of the tail extending down into the soul, the top of the head reaching up into spirit. So the tail's connecting to Mother Earth and the head to the heavens. Breathing, just getting some flexion into the spine, some movement into the tip of the tail and the head. I want to feel the energy. So I want to feel the change. So I'm breathing in here, but now my energy is already deflating and my body sort of catches up with it. Now the pressure's building up now, so something's being pushed out and my body follows. Now it's just become so empty, but it just needs to fill again. And now it's just becoming almost too full and it needs to empty. I want to delay the changeover, really stretch out that aspect, almost grinds to a halt. Your legs have come up from your feet and are holding onto your spine at the Ming Men. That's the feeling. Let's just bring the feet up a bit. And now just flexing side to side. With the same action in the spine. So I want my tip of my tail pointing in the same direction as my head. Soft legs, springy rather than rigid. As I tilt to the right, my right leg is taking more of the weight, so it will compress a little more. Now feet out a bit. Let's just go back to holding the Dantian and the Mingmen. And now tipping. Feeling the still stability where my fists are and the movement in my head and my feet. The difficulty here is really sinking to lift the foot up. If you watch yourself, if you record yourself and watch yourself, you'll see that actually there's this tiny little pull up here to bring the foot off the ground. That's what we want to eradicate. To take one foot off the ground, the other foot has to connect all the more. And then back to riding horse. And now let's just turn, but keeping the fists where they are. And that will encourage us to turn from the hips rather than the shoulders. So we've just immobilized the upper body, really. We tend to feel this turn as one thing. It's one turn to my left. But I want to feel it as the two legs doing opposite things. So very much one coming from two. So I turn here as much as I can. That compresses this leg, making it want to spring up. And it stretches this leg, making it want to pull. So at that moment of turning back the way I've come, my two legs are very much doing opposite things. The leg we tend not to be very good at is the straightening leg becoming bent. We're used to sinking into a leg and then springing out of it. So we do that all the time when we're walking. But if you look at it, you'll realize this is exactly what you're doing when you're walking. You step forward with one foot and that foot is grabbing that piece of ground at the same time that your full supporting leg is pushing you forwards. One side of my body is breathing in and the other side is breathing out. This is what makes it difficult for our minds to get around. And then let the arms go. Feel it coming from the legs. So my legs are turning and my arms are the last thing to move. Rivers of warm honey. Such a beautiful image. So this viscous liquid that you're wading through. Dan Chen and Ming Men. Feeling that your Dan Chen is pulling inwards and your Ming Men is pushing outwards. You want that to come from the concentration of your mind. Your mind is focusing into a point rather than using too much muscle. Feel the tail unraveling and lengthening. Like there's this subterranean lake beneath your feet and your tail has to dip down into it in order to siphon energy up into the head. Jeremy Vaeni, who's this strange American master, he talks about the sacrum having gills, like it's breathing or drinking from the ground, from the earth. So without that, the spirit just won't wake up. Or it will, but it will sort of go back to sleep again pretty quickly. Now let's have 1 foot forwards and full and empty. Filling from the ground. And again, I want to feel the inevitability of the return. So here I'm emptying. Comes a point where it's just so empty, it just has to fill. So I have to come forwards. And now it's becoming so full and congested that it has to empty. Really straighten the leg. So what makes me sink is not my determined will, but the thirst in my tail. My tail is thirsty or hungry for the ground. So it's really extending, and that takes me down. The more active your tail is, the more the spirit in your head and heart will wake up. Now, other way around. And now let's just try the same thing, but bringing it up into the opposite arm. So filling from the ground as I come forwards, and just allow that to come into the backhand. And then I drop that hand. And as I go back, I pull the energy up my back leg and use that hand to direct it into the front arm. Now let's just come back to here. And now the figure of 8 around the waist. Try not to move this point. Just let it yourself turn around it. I'm using the body and mind to squeeze this path of energy. It's a strange feeling. This is like my mind has to behave like the hand holding the toothpaste tube, squeeze it gently but determinedly to get this ooze of toothpaste coming out. But there's another sense that it happens because I'm relaxing, but I'm relaxing very much along a path. I'm not relaxing divergently. So this ooze of energy is being directed by tension, but it's actually moving because of relaxation. So we have these two tensions, the one I call good tension, which is really just a stretched connectivity, like a piece of elastic that's been stretched. And then there's bad tension, which is like a bunched up separateness. And that's what we're just trying to get away from. So that's how the tail normally is. It's sort of bunched up. And that's mirrored in the head's desire to just chat away to itself like this. So I'm just trying to extend those two ends indefinitely so that this end can really connect to the ground and this end can reach up to the divine, to heaven. So good tension is connection. And when you have connection, there's always a tussle. If there wasn't, then it wouldn't really be a connection. It would just be one thing. The two have become one. So if you have a proper connection, there's always tension between the connecting parts, but they don't separate. They can tug and fight and squabble, and that's healthy. So our good tension is just that connection. And then the bad tension is just a disconnection. Something in it has become so tight, the connection is broken. Like if the elastic breaks, each end of the elastic just pulls into itself. And then it's a real struggle to reconnect. Something has to happen externally normally. You need to go and see a therapist. You need to get some sort of input from outside to help you reconnect. And just trying your best to keep it in the legs and the hips. Keep it in the lower body. As soon as the upper body tends to become active, it runs away with itself and breaks from the legs. We want the upper body to be supremely active, but only because the energy is coming up from the ground. And the test of a relaxed upper body is always relaxed shoulders. Are your shoulders coming away from the hips? And if so, they're independent. They're not right. So this feeling that my shoulders are all the time dropping down, packing down into my hips. My hips all the time are dropping down, packing into my feet. So there's a real direct connection between the sole of your foot and your hand, almost like there's no distance. So ego or self, that's simply bad tension, this disconnection. Now let's try it with just 1 foot forwards. The same thing, but just feels a bit different. Again, I'm trying not to move backwards and forwards too much, but get it all coming from the turning and the opening in these places here, in the groin. It's very much the knee going out and rounding. My knee goes out and forwards and around. John was into this a long time before we discovered the figure of 8, which is why, when he revived that figure of 8 exercise, he suddenly realized that that's what he's been doing all along. Keep the shoulders relaxed. That's so difficult. So when the shoulders come up, it's not really because you have anything interesting to say. It's because you're afraid of the pain in the legs. So it's all fear-based. All disconnection is fear-based. And it's up to us to look at that and see the truth of that. And none of us like to be cowards, and so we will tend to do something about it. We'll want to do something about it. Let's try with the other foot forwards. So tension is disconnection, separateness, bad tension. That's often the mind. Our normal rational mind, it can only function by interposing an idea between you and reality. So even with these exercises, we have an image in our head of how they should be done. And then we're conforming to that. And that's always a barrier. So this is the idea with exercise. You just keep it going long enough for the idea to sort of melt away. And then it becomes something quite different. It just becomes the energy dictating the form rather than your ideas dictating the form. Just bring it back again. So the spine from your Ming Men, from your back fist, has to hang heavily. So my sacrum, if I'm standing like normally, then my sacrum is angled back like this. So I have to relax so that that can drop down. But at the same time, I need to relax around the coccyx so the coccyx can actually lengthen down as well instead of bunching up. So I don't want to pull my bum under because that will just bring tension into the tail. I want the whole area just to relax. Feel the desire in your tail to connect to the ground. So in a sense, love is just the desire to connect. So we need to have it primarily here. You can feel it in the tail, you can feel it in the soles of the feet, but it's definitely the lower body. And then if this opens up as a consequence of this, then it has a purity. It's not greedy. You're not doing something to get an effect or to get a return. It just happens. And now let's just try taking the foot off the ground. Just doing the figure of 8, what we've just been doing. But as I go around one foot, I really stretch it out and bring the foot off the ground. So it hasn't really stopped moving. It's just really slowed down. And then I can step out here. And now it speeds up. And now as it gets to the edge, it's really slowing down. On the feeling that my supporting leg is really cupping and holding my hip so gently and relaxedly. Because I want this stability to come from my relaxation. It's so easy just to clamp up and get an image of stability. Here I'm just relaxing. Ooh, I'm relaxing into this enormous smile. So my arms are this big smile that I can take down into my foot and really let go around here. So I relax into this. So I just drag the bubbling well of one foot across the ground and then up the leg. So it never really leaves the ground. My supporting leg is just an extension of the ground. So it separates now. And again, to take my foot off my knee, I want to pull it up. I pull it up and then I send it out. When I do this with a student, I use my foot to lift their foot up. And it's interesting because each of you gives the other support. So when I lift their knee just a little bit higher than they can get it, they really sit into the leg. And something just opens up, something just relaxes. Okay, let's bring it back. And now just bringing it into riding horse. And to bring my mind back to my tail. Feel it reaching down. Heavy elbows that's helping pack your shoulders down into your hips. Relaxed across the sacrum. Soles of the feet feel like they're really spreading out, and that will allow your hips to relax down into your feet. But all the time holding on here, because if you don't, it's like the bottom falls out the bucket and you relax, but then you're broken. And now let's bring it up and finish. A little bit of this one. Play. So this lovely quote, you said, Adam's sin was getting too serious. So when play leaves the system, there's no energy really. Don't put the feet on the ground. You're always on your toes. What the heel seems to go down, but it doesn't actually touch the ground. Or if it does, it's only for an instant, and then it's back up again. So it should feel really sort of wobbly. You're about to tip over. So my intrepidness my lack of trepidation is my own inner quietness in the midst of this really trembling system. And then just bringing it down. But just a sense of that is in the foot all the time. So, I mean, to start with, we have these feet that are just really planted, like real, you can really feel your weight in your heel. But that's not the way we want to become. We want to become the opposite. It's all the time in Tai Chi. We start off with one thing in order to become the opposite. So I should feel that my heel is just really sort of oozing and caressing the ground. It's not planted like a rock. And then that energy that the legs are generating loosens up the whole body. So if you have chronic tension anywhere, you have to bring movement into that place. Otherwise, it'll never relax.